Hi, folks. Coach Mo here. I'm here for another Motivational Monday. And if you're here with me, please go ahead and comment and say hello. Love to know who all's here with me today. I'm in a bit of a personal transition today as we go live here today. I'm actually at the site. Let me just see if I don't know if I can't really see. It's too bright out there. I'm actually at the site of my retreat for this coming retreat, May of 2020, and got super excited about it this morning and talked to my clients about, I don't know if you guys can see. No, it's too bright out there. It's a beautiful beach resort here in South Florida, and just hanging out at this place for the week while we're in the process of moving into our final place. If you've been following any of my story, you know that that's what's been going on. Again, hit me up with a comment and just let me know that you're here. We're going to talk about a really, really important topic today. It is millennials. Are they taking over the workplace? Who is in charge and taking over at work? Is your work, is your job threatened by those nasty millennials? And if you're a millennial, I don't mean that you're nasty. As a matter of fact, I have millennials working on my team, and I love them. I've been talking all the last 4 episodes of Motivational Monday. I've been talking about the generation problem. Hello, Lee, how are you? Every single generation that has come behind the generation in power has looked to be problematic, has looked to be very problematic. Those boomers, so the World War II generation, they're called the silent generation because they didn't really speak up much. They were about duty and obligation. The baby boomers followed them, and the silent generation was like, what's wrong with these people? They're protesting, they're wearing their long hair. When they got into the workplace, they got stuff done. They were more aggressive. They were outspoken. They demanded certain things that the silent generation just didn't stand up for. So that generation saw something that was a threat. Same thing for the millennials. They're a threat to what we can call the old power regime. And not to get too sociological on you, but if your workplace is hierarchical, if it has a few layers of bosses, there's something to that structure of power that these folks who are in this millennial generation, they don't love that. It's not how their experience of growing up felt. Their experience growing up felt inclusive and sharing and cooperative and collaborative. And it also felt like they could be involved. So when they get into this old power hierarchy where they can't so much get involved, or the old power is really about keeping things tight and under control, and it's us versus them, and it is closed information only if you need to know it. There's a lot of rules in the old power paradigm that don't quite cut it for folks who are, let's just say, around 30 plus or minus. The millennials sort of are around those folks who are 35 and younger right now in the workforce. And life work is just a different scene for them than it is for, let's say, my generation. I'm a late boomer. That's my band. So I'm part of the baby boomers according to my age, but I'm really at the last couple of years of that. So I don't really identify totally as a boomer. So I'm a little bit lost in the generational band. That being said, I'm from the old power. I'm from the hierarchical power, move up, claim yourself at a certain level, and then gain that. There's a big lie in workplace where you have to work hard, keep your head down, and they'll notice you eventually. That just doesn't work at all. So if that's been part of your conditioning, you're going to have to get reconditioned on what it means to be successful. I spoke to a wonderful woman today who's got an MBA, and she lost her job recently. And mostly it was about her not stepping into her power and her not being her own advocate. She just figured she didn't want to be that troublemaker employee. Bottom line is because she didn't want to risk that, she's now not working. And that happens a lot. We see a lot of women in our workshop who have not stepped into their power, who have not owned their power. And it's because that hierarchical idea of who we're supposed to be at work, being the good girl, we don't want to topple that. We feel loyal to the power structure. And so therefore we don't typically want to mess with it, and we don't want to be seen as a bad actor, a bad employee, that sort of thing. And when we get stuck, stifled, and pushed into a box, there's little other options that we have except to allow ourselves to get downsized, fired, or quit. And a lot of the women we work with in our workshop are women who just had no other option. They were in such pain and so aggravated that their only option felt like quitting. As a matter of fact, this year we've actually helped quite a few women not quit or not be fired. At the time where they entered our work, we helped them navigate and grow and expand through that experience. It's not always 100% of a turnaround, but when you can navigate that experience and learn what it is to have strategies and techniques and self-power where you're navigating something in a powerful way, it's a whole different experience than if you let the organization or the events dictate to you. Changes everything. Here's the thing. Millennials don't buy into that power paradigm that sticks a lot of people who are a little bit older. And so millennials believe in navigating things effortlessly and breaking through what we would see to be this power structure. They don't see the power structure as something to be loyal to or to respect in the way that older generations do. So they're likely to have conversations around the power, go for what they want, ask for what they want, expect collaboration, expect cooperation, and frankly, sometimes expect transparency. Why aren't you putting me on this project? Might be a question that a millennial would ask, whereas someone who's in the older generations would just accept the fact that they're not on that project and sort of tail between legs, just kind of ride off to the side and shrink and contract and therefore now become marginalized. Whereas a millennial typically will not put up with that, and they expect to understand how these things work. So navigating the workplace is just different if you were raised in the years of the millennials, which is basically born in 94-ish and later in years, so younger than 35. It's just a different scene. Now, we've had some grads who have told us, and perhaps we've had some clients as well, well, I was in the final round of interviews and they ended up choosing a millennial. So what that means is someone younger. So I've talked about this in the other millennial series that I've done. Here's the thing. If you have experience and if you have education and expertise, there's nothing that a millennial has over you except a few things. They might have exuberance, enthusiasm. They might have emotional availability. They might appear to be eager for what's new and dive in. And perhaps if you're in the older generation who's experienced and brings a lot to the table, you might have conditioned yourself a little bit to be maybe inflexible, perhaps a little rigid in your thought process. Check that out. Perhaps ask yourself some questions or do some role playing with a friend of yours who can be honest and who you're going to trust to be a good mirror. If you're in my graduate group, I'm going to suggest that you stretch yourself a little bit with some of the exercises in the workshop modules so that you can really see who you are and who you're being, and are you bringing your best, highest version of you and your soul's true power to the table? Or perhaps some of the conditioning, is it getting a little bit too rigid? So you might want to break through some of that conditioning. Remember, if you're not a millennial, I want you to remember the excitement that you had when you started your profession. I want you to remember the enthusiasm and the progressive thinking that you had when you started your profession, your career, because that's what a younger person has over someone who has been in the workplace 20 plus, 25, 30 years. It's very possible that the initial talent that you have is compelling. It's possible that that isn't enough to carry the weight of what someone wants on their team. So you have to check in with that. Millennials can be absolutely fantastic colleagues and coworkers and collaborative partners. When you take the best of what they've got and you open up and you partner up with them, they're absolutely awesome in the workplace and eager to dive in and don't feel restricted by a lot of the things that I personally grew up to be restricted by. Seniority, authority, unspoken channels, even, as a matter of fact, even spoken channels. They're not as concerned about all of that. And you know what? That brings a new sense of dynamism to the workplace. There's a sense of this collaborative power that millennials have learned because they were brought up in the internet age where there was easy information. I don't know about you, but I was brought up where we had an encyclopedia for each letter of the alphabet and like 2 paragraphs for stuff. That was our access to information. So there's a template in us that believes that minimal information is okay. And if you want to find out something more on your own, you've got to like just put up with that and maybe be a little bit resourceful. So just keep in mind that if you were raised at the age where at a keystroke you could find all sorts of information about something and you could have access to anything, you're going to think differently in the workplace. So you may have to change your rule book a bit to be more adaptable to what they bring and what the new generation is basically providing and opening ourselves. Chira, yes, it's a fun group to work with. Agree completely. And so what we have as an opportunity with a multi-generational workplace, which I don't know about you, but I'm working for, I don't know, a good long while. And I invite the younger perspectives. I invite the collaboration and the access, transparency requests. I invite that. Is it challenging sometimes? Yes. Is it outside my comfort zone? Maybe many times. And here's the thing. It's good for all of us. It's good for all of us to have that. Now, if a millennial snags a job instead of you, I want you to really appreciate what that might mean for you and your growth and what it might be possible for you to expand into. So take a look at what that might mean. And if you have the opportunity to get direct feedback, honest, open, transparent feedback, and actually ask for it in that way, because that's the culture that is being brought forward into our workplace through this biggest generation of workers we've ever had. Part of that is true is because the millennials are working, males, females, at a higher percentage than what any generation prior to them has done. So they're the biggest band of workforce that we've ever seen. So they're going to have an impact and they're going to make their mark, just like all the generations beforehand. Please guard yourself and shift yourself. If you find yourself being judging or being put off or finding yourself being rigid against anything that you resist, anything that you push back, you're going to be energizing that. So it's the opposite thing you want to do. You want to open yourself up. You want to open your heart and mind up to the collaboration and the excitement and the enthusiasm and what you could learn. That is your best bet for all the things that you need to be about and know about in order to be successful in the workplace with millennials beginning to move up and gain certain levels of, dare we say, power, authority, and control. They may not look at it that way because their way of looking at the world is different. They want greater impact. They want greater influence. And so they want to be involved. So their level of involvement is feeding into this hierarchical structure that we've built for generations. So it's going to feel different. So what I would challenge you this week is to open yourself up to anyone in the workplace 35 and younger. If you are 35 and younger, I'm going to invite you to open yourself up to someone who is 45 and older. Let's keep those 35 to 45-year-olds in this no man's land. Just kidding. There's a lot of opportunity as well. So make some cross-generational communication commitments for yourself this week, and be open to learning the best of what that generation brings. Now, of course, by the very nature of my topic of talking about millennials and whether they're taking over the workplace, I obviously want to get your attention. Clearly, I'm generalizing. So not every boomer, not every Generation X, not every millennial fits into the mold of what that generation brings. But the reason why we label it so is because that generation was raised with certain things going on in their society, in their experience growing up in different technology or things that we had to do. Look, I had to go to the library and get books out to read things. Okay? It meant going to a building. It meant having a library card. It meant having certain things in place that would allow me to check out a book. And sometimes the library had one copy of a book. And if it was already checked out, I had to wait for someone to return that book. Scarcity. Sometimes folks in my generation believe that information and power is a scarce resource and only for the few. That's not what the millennials believe. The millennials believe that everyone and anyone can have information, power, access. So join that thought process a little bit. Dive into some of those aspects. Dive into the possibility that you could learn something from a younger generation. And if you're in the younger generation, dive into, can you learn something from the older generations? There's room for all of us. There is room for experience, and there is room for exuberant enthusiasm that is not restricted by experiential stories and conditioning. Welcome it all and bring yourself into collaboration with your multi-generational coworkers. Bring yourself together with that and embrace what they each bring. If you have folks who are in the silent generation in your workplace, might be a little bit minimal to have that, but if you do, welcome that as well. More than likely, you might have family members in that generation. Learn from them. Get wisdom. All of us have something to learn from everyone else. Let's be open this week. Let's have an appeal for being more open. And we can only be open to others if we feel more confident and happy with ourselves. So you've got two things to focus on this week. You've got the share yourself with another generation of a person. And number two, I want you to do whatever you need to step into a greater sense of self so that you don't have fear about what's different. Because when we're not secure about who we are, we fear difference. Our primitive brain takes over and says, oh, no, they're different than me. Oh, no, they're too young. Oh, they're too this. Oh, they're too that. If you say the word they, you're already having a problem. Okay? So step into, Chira, you're such great comments today. Step into your better, highest version of you so that you can be the person who you need to be open to others. If you've had a bumpy road in your career, if you're having a difficult time navigating some of these cross-generational things, we can help. If your career is not exactly where you want it to be, we can help. In my kick-ass workshop, we help up-level women in their careers all the time. It's what we do. And as a matter of fact, it's what we want to do. So if your career is not progressing in a way that you want it to progress, or maybe you've lost your job, gotten fired, or quit, give us a call for our free career clarity call. You can book that at mofaul.com/live clarity call. Please take the time to make sure that 2019 is the year that you stepped it up, that this year is the year that you've decided is going to be the best year to the best beginning of the next step for yourself. Make sure that you are doing what you can to step into your highest power and make your career your biggest asset. Just last week, actually over the past week, I believe there's 8 ladies who have gotten great new jobs who we've been working with. And each and every one of them had a different story, but they all followed the same process. One of them, we helped her avoid quitting a job that would have cost her hundreds of thousands of dollars. And by helping her navigate a very tricky situation, she was able to land a C-suite level job as an advancement in her career to a city she and her husband both wanted to go to, and actually have a career opportunity that's going to be a lifetime opportunity for her. And it's going to perhaps seed her future in a way that no other job of a lesser value would have. Exciting opportunities. Women who have landed new jobs that have brought them $30,000, $44,000 more. A woman who was fired 3 times in a row, landing a job for $30,000 more and feeling awesome about herself and having a better relationship with her husband and with her daughter because she got herself to her best self. She wasn't that person in the jobs that she got fired from. She was not happy with herself, and therefore she was not a great employee, not a great manager. She knew a lot. She had great expertise and great experience, but it just wasn't working for her. So we helped her bring her soul back to life, which meant she felt happier about who she is and what she does and what she knows. And then she was able to imagine herself at that next higher level, which she didn't think she was worthy of before. We got her to increase her soul and her sense of self. Boom. Great job after that. So your challenge this week, shall you choose to accept it, is to reach out cross-generationally, collaborate with someone at work in a different age group. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to see posts. Go to my Bring Your Soul to Work Facebook group, and we can post and we can interact with each other in a way that is really fun and awesome. Pop over there and let's share some stories. Let's be in this solution, in this multi-generational, beautiful coming together in a way that is solving problems, making the workplace better, and making us as human beings even better and more richer people for having each other. But you've got to do the inner work, and you've got to become the highest version of you. So go do that this week. Let's take it up a notch, and let's get your dream job cooking. And it starts in the soul. Have a great week, everyone. Match up with that cross-generational person in your workplace. Make a new friend. Make a new colleague. And honor yourself this week. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. This is Mo Faul. It's Motivational Monday. Have a great week.